Welcome to the Reading Toolbox. I'm the reading therapist, Amy Teague, and I'm bringing you information about all things reading. And today we're going to talk about dyslexia, kind of talk about what dyslexia is, and expel some of those myths as to what dyslexia is not. So dyslexia is a specific learning disability that's neurological in origin. It is characterized by difficulties with reading accurately, with fluid word recognition, and you typically see poor spelling and decoding abilities. These difficulties result from a deficit in what we call the phonological component of language, and that has to do with sounds, being able to hear those individual sounds in words, which we call phonemes, being able to isolate the sounds, manipulate the sounds, just hearing the sounds in general. That is where those difficulties really come from with dyslexia. And it's all unexpected in relation to the other cognitive abilities and considering that you've had effective classroom instruction. There are some secondary consequences that you might see with dyslexia, which could be some problems in reading comprehension. You might see reduced reading experience, and all of that can impede the growth of the vocabulary and the background knowledge. So like one thing can lead to another that's really just from them not actually reading the words, not decoding, not reading the books. Some of the myths about dyslexia. A big myth is that dyslexia is seeing letters backwards. But from the research, dyslexics really do not make more reversal errors than other typical struggling readers. So letter reversal errors are actually rare whenever individual letters are presented at a rapid exposure. So through research that was done in 1971, there was second grade struggling readers, and they looked at all of the errors that they made, and really only 25% of the words they missed were due to reversals or transpositions. With handwriting, you might see errors with letter formation. So you may see them flipping letters, but this is mostly attributed to difficulties with directionality. So most of the 26 letters of the alphabet face left to right, just like we read. But it's those ones that face left and the ones that are mirror images that are symmetrical that give the most trouble. So confusing the P and the Q and the B and the D is not a direct indicator of dyslexia, but it's something that you might see because of dyslexia. But you could also see that from lots of other reading disabilities and just disabilities in general besides dyslexia. So it's not a visual perceptual problem. It's not what they're seeing. It's how the brain, right back here in the rear left part of the brain, when they see the image, it's just a processing difficulty. But the core deficit is phonological awareness, being able to hear the sounds, the individual phonemes, being able to match those sounds to the letters, the graphemes that represent those sounds. That is where that core deficit really falls with dyslexia. And there's also a weakness in the ability to name objects rapidly. That also is something that you see with dyslexia. And some other myths that, there's boys get dyslexia more than girls. So the NIHD proved that that's not true through the research. There's just as many girls with dyslexia. And another myth is that it's something you'll just outgrow. Well, as we know that reading has been proven not to be a natural process, okay, it is something you explicitly do have to learn. Same thing. So people with dyslexia, children with dyslexia, they will require some direct, explicit teaching. The research shows that a sequential, multisensory, explicit approach will best benefit children with dyslexia. So overcoming dyslexia, yes, but outgrowing with no proper instruction, no. Now there is what we call comorbidity. Means you may have dyslexia, but you may also have something else going on. And so we have actually found that 50% of children with dyslexia also have ADHD in the area of attention, and not one is not causing the other, but it's just something that we're finding where they're existing together. So there are other causes of reading difficulties besides dyslexia. But difficulty with basic reading and language skills are the most common learning disabilities. And 85 to 90% of students with a specific learning disability that receive special education services do also have a deficit in reading, according to research by the NICHD. So how is dyslexia different from other reading disabilities? So you have to really look at that phonological weakness being the primary cause. The reading difficulty is at the level of decoding the single word both accurately and fluently, and intelligence is not affected. In fact, it may be in the superior or gifted range. And that's where we talk about unexpectedness. Like, it just doesn't make sense why you can't read the words because you're so intelligent in these other areas. And so that is something that we look for. And it is also present from birth. So a good resource, a book that you could read is Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz, and that's where a lot of this information came from. So in thinking of dyslexia being a specific learning disability, it's the idea that a child with dyslexia has a brain cognitive deficit that is specific to the reading task. And that deficit shouldn't really extend too far into other areas or domains of cognitive functioning. So that's how dyslexia is kind of unique. There are a couple of theoretical models out there of reading with the notion of the two contributions needed for skilled reading comprehension are decoding and listening comprehension. So your normal readers have good comprehension and good decoding, whereas your poor readers, they call them garden variety, which means it's different causes. They may have poor comprehension and poor decoding. Your hyperlexic readers, they have good decoding but poor comprehension. So this is like word calling. So they can read just fine, but they just don't really quite understand what's going on with the words they're reading. And then you have dyslexia, and those fall with good comprehension but poor decoding in that quadrant typically. So again, the struggles that you can see in comprehension with people with dyslexia is really a direct result of the poor decoding and those effects leading to poor comprehension. It is important to know that there are some social and emotional concerns related to dyslexia that you will want to look for, if this is your child, just to be aware of. So you can look for things like anxiety, anger, poor self-image, depression, and it can also affect families. So this is really when you're not getting support, getting the help you need. The good news is that with proper support, you can work through these things and actually, have a positive outcome versus these negative outcomes. IDA, the International Dyslexia Association, has some fact sheets to help you understand the basics of dyslexia. If you think your child might have dyslexia, you can learn more about ADHD and dyslexia, understanding dysgraphia, which we didn't really talk about today, that has to do with writing, spelling, and more on the social and emotional problems related to dyslexia. And you can find links to some of these resources at my website. It is amyteague.com, and that's AIMEETEAGUE. Or you can search for the Reading Therapist, and I should pop up that way. I do also provide academic language therapy for children online from anywhere, and if you're near the Austin area, possibly in person, but definitely online is available, and or just reading services in general I offer as well. So you can go to the website to look and find more information. I'll have more resources there. And if you're interested in more content and you'd like to learn more, please subscribe and look for my future videos to learn more about reading, writing, spelling. We'll get into dysgraphia. And I enjoy sharing what I've learned from being in the classroom, being a special education teacher, a dyslexia specialist, and now an academic language therapist. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.